What you doing, readers? I'm the AC, and I'm going to talk about the book The Lost Causes of Bleak Creek by Rhett, McLaughlin, and Neal. It originally came out in October 2019, but that was a hardcover, or paperback cover came out more recently. Just decided to snag it in paperback because, I don't know, that just seems to be what most of my books are. But yeah, first off, I was just always curious how two people write a book together. Of course, they worked together and made stuff for a while now, so maybe it's just natural for them. But you know, you're used to the one author working with the editor. Now two authors, how they bring their ideas together and make it work, probably just natural to them, I assume. There's a Q&A in the end of the book, so that's a little insight into that. But yeah, I've been a somewhat casual fan of Rhett and Link and Good Mythical Morning, all the stuff they've been doing for a few years. Somehow didn't know about them before, like maybe 4 years ago. But yeah, especially now, I've been watching a lot more of their videos. And once I realized they had a book out, I couldn't resist not checking it out. I like what they make in vids, might as well read what they write. Did not disappoint. It's a very great read. But let me give a little summary of what this book is about. Of course, I could read the back, but I'm going to try to be a bit more brief. And I don't want to copy what they put. This is my own thoughts, you know. So, this book takes place in North Carolina. Cool. I'm from Virginia. Very close. Anyways, it's about three friends, Rex, Leif, and Alyssa. There's a whole kind of running joke whether it's that Leif's name people pronounce, I assume, Leaf. I kept wanting to pronounce it Leaf, but I also kept wanting to call Rex and Leif Rhett and Link throughout the whole book. Anyways, getting off track. Three friends want to make a movie called Polterdog. Yeah. While shooting it, stuff goes wrong, and their friend Alyssa ends up getting sent to this twisted reform school. Whitewood School. The person they happen to knock into a barbecue happens to be the headmaster there. Not a good thing to do, but it happens. She gets sent there. That's pretty much where the rest of it's going to go from there. Rex and Leif are trying to... Leif! Caught myself already. Rex and Leif are trying to figure out, is she going to be safe there, if they can get her out. Eventually, a student from NYU named Janine, who used to live there, also shows up. Was wanting to make a movie about kidney stones. Weird topic. Okay. Eventually also discovers this mystery, eventually meets Rex and Leif, wants to do more about it, and the mystery goes on from there. It's a nice little, you know, teen, kind of a coming of age story. I guess something like this is about as coming of age as it gets, but also it's a mystery about this weird school that everyone seems to be okay with. Nobody really questions what it is or the fact that mysterious things happens there. And now they're just worried about their friend, and Janine's worried about making an interesting movie. So, saying all that without getting into anything spoilery yet, it was just a purely enjoyable read. It's a very well balanced book. There are great timings with these intense moments, and they're just positioned so well that it makes the book really quick to read. I felt like besides those few quick moments, a lot of the action doesn't happen until the last third of the book, really. And I didn't even notice. I was there. It's what? 300 pages? Over 300 pages? Yeah, you don't even notice because it just gets paced that well. Pacing's a big deal for me. You don't need to have stuff going on all the time. You just need to have me really care what's going on in the characters. It also helps each chapter pretty much switches back and forth between who's the focus of the chapter. So that kind of keeps the story going. Sometimes though, it hits a point where you want to keep reading what's going on with that character, and then it switches. Not a huge deal, but sometimes momentum gets a little hiccupy. But not really too much to complain about with that. But yeah, great, just great, pure enjoyment of reading. Not complicated story, but there are issues in it that it lightly dusts over. Just to let you know, it's still an informed book. Also, a lot of the stuff gets drawn from their childhood, or they can make it to relate either as a teen if you're reading this to maybe how you were growing up, or even as an adult if you're like me who grew up in another small town and we're like, oh yeah, that's kind of what it was like for me. Now, there's the review, quick review. Let's get into the actual discussion. That's going to get very spoilery. Yeah, sure. There is at the end also like a book club guide, and I'm going to hit all those questions up at first. I could make a whole nother video just getting really in depth with those questions. I'm going to give my quick takes on it, but before I get to that, I'm probably going to answer the last question first, which is, what do I like about the book? What do I want to see happen next? So, like I mentioned before, I'm from a very small town in Virginia. Apparently, there's less than 1,000 people in this town that I grew up in. And I didn't even live right in the town. I lived like right outside of it, like in the woods, middle of nowhere. So, any story about small town stuff always gets me, because I want to try to relate to it, see what the similarities are from the town they actually grew up in real life. A little bit bigger. I try to look into as much as I could. A little bit bigger. Bleak Creek seems like it will be a bit bigger than what I grew up with also, but still small town vibes all the way. Now, for the actual tone of the story, it's super lot harder for the most of it. It's about a couple friends, but then there's these just kind of brutal moments in it that reminds me, yeah, there's still some realness in this. Like, the headmaster of the Whitewood School tries drowning Alyssa. Yeah, weird. Okay, it's a little brutal. You don't really see many stories of grown men trying to drown girls. Of course, all ends up being tested proof she's this, kind of can't be controlled, kind of a more independent spirit. Anyways, but yeah, and then eventually him getting shot, and then just this whole weird mystery of the Bleak Creek itself and the little resort spring area that they have, and how there's spirit, like they try to put some lore in it, which is super interesting. I'm always interested in lore. It does just seem random, but it's cool. It needs like 7 kids, and I'm going to get more into all this later. But yeah, this spring spirit, dark spring spirit that pretty much abducts these more independent, strong-willed kids. Kind of dark for what you think for a kid's story. Not a kid's story, but a young adult story, I guess. But yeah, I like that it was still tame, but it was still going for it. Like, I don't want you holding back, and I know the target audience for this probably isn't someone who's deeply invested in horror stuff anyways, but I appreciate it. Keeping some, I said real earlier, but I don't know if spring monsters are real. But yeah, you gotta keep some kind of darkness in it. Now, another really thing I like in most stories is character development, but not just that. I like these additional characters that come in. You have a new friend they make named Ben who escaped from the school. Then you have Janine's cousin Donna, who used to go to school also, and they pretty much was able to brainwash her. She was one of the first students there apparently. And then you have their kind of rich preppy fan, Hornhat, who comes. I like what they do with these characters. They're not the main focus of the story like Rex, Leif, and Janine are, but they come in, they make some big moments. Ben, he pretty much is the one who helped creates the whole plan to get them in there, get the friends out, and tries to expose the school. Yeah, he's just a kid too. Donna, you get to see her kind of reverse what was done to her. She finally is able to come out, and she's the one that shoots the headmaster, and finally gets over what they did to her. And then Horhat, he seemed to be just this annoying kid, but you can see how much he really cares and wants to be a part of this group, even though they just find him annoying. He's a good guy. He never does anything sketchy or turns on me. He's just there to help and is happy to be included. I like it. But you do get to see some change in the main characters. Of course, Rex, Leif, and Alyssa. You see that Rex seems to be the leader throughout this whole thing. But after Leif also gets taken to the school, he realizes he misses him too. But then when Ben starts kind of taking control, Rex kind of see what he was putting Leif through. On the other hand, Leif, once he's in the school and he's without Rex, he realizes he can also take this chance to step up, be more of a leader, speak out his mind more, which he's been having difficulty doing this whole time when it comes to him and Leif and both their crushes on Alyssa. And it's really nice to see them grow and come to realize an understanding of each other by not being with each other. Now, Alyssa, she didn't seem to have that much growth in an obvious way. She seems to be this strong-willed, free spirit kind of character. And you see by the end, after what she's gone through, she's been more exposed, is more sensitive. She's kind of, not as strong-willed as she seems to be. She seems to be more mellowed out, and maybe that's just kind of PTSD thing from what she went through. Of course, being in the spring made her lose her memories a bit. But there's that. Janine, I don't know if she really changed that much at all. She goes back and reunites with Donna. If that's it, just reestablishing this family and her best friend as a kid, all that kind of stuff. I guess that's where her development is. But yeah, I like seeing how characters play out. I seem to always like side characters more because they always seem to have the most way they can grow. But yeah, now, enough about that. There's plenty more that's going to be answered when I hit these book club questions. So let's just start with that. So, here we go. These are going to be also, of course, very spoilery. I already went through them, so I know pretty much what I want to say. But yeah, let's go through them. So, Rex and Leif struggle to share their feelings for Alyssa with each other, even though they're best friends. Why do you think this was hard for them? Okay. So, I don't know. This was also my hardest question to answer out of all of them because I don't know. I'm also the same way. There's something about a kid, and especially into your rom-com stuff, it's hard to express when you have a crush on someone. Maybe it's because, especially when you're friends with someone, you don't want to ruin that dynamic. If you feel scared that if you tell them how you feel, it might ruin it. They only tell, eventually each other how they feel about her once she's gone, once they're afraid they lost her. Okay. When have you struggled to share something with your best friend? I don't know. When do I share? I don't think I share anything with anyone. The only time I share anything with anyone is if I think it's going to be funny or if I'm drunk. That's it. People I consider my best friends probably don't know much about me. Yeah, just kind of thing I do. You're probably going to find out more about me with these questions though. Why was it hard for you? I don't know. Just open up to people in general? Who knows? I've never been an open top. I keep stuff to myself. Yeah, people don't need to know my business. I guess people don't even really care. Maybe that's why. Who knows? Early in the book, Alyssa remembers her father telling her that she would never be given the same margin of error as the other kids in town. Why do you think she feels that way? And how do you think it affects her choices in the book? Okay, well, she feels that way because, assumption, Bleak Creek is probably a very white town. And she has mixed parents, one of them's black. Yeah, she's probably not going to get the same chances. She's probably already going to be discriminated against. And as a kid, you do not realize this as much as you may realize. I'm part Filipino. As a kid growing up, anything said race-wise about me, I took as a joke. It was just people I knew. We was always joking around with each other. That's what I didn't realize. Like, race thing was the issue until like later in high school when I moved to a different town that was even more white than where I grew up. Wow, it was bad there. But yeah, I grew up in a unique situation where it was like I wasn't white enough to be white, but I wasn't dark enough to not be white. And it's like, well, what do I do? So yeah, she is already going to get discriminated against because she's going to be a little darker than each other. Because I assume Bleak Creek is a really white place. And how that affects her decisions and choices, if you're told you're different from someone else, you're either going to try your best to fit in, or you're just going to accept it and go ahead and be different from everyone else. You're not going to try to fit in. You're going to try to be the free spirit she is. And she stayed that way until she meets Rex and Leif and actually feels accepted by them. It's like, if people telling you different, just be different. Nothing wrong with being different. Go for it. Everyone else was the one with the whole hive mind, sheep, crap. Anyways, were you a good kid or a bad kid growing up? I was a bad kid. I won't get into that more. Do you think there's something you chose, or was it something other people decided for you? Why do you believe that? It wasn't something I chose. I don't think it's something people could decide for me. I didn't find out as a kid, but once I became an adult and I started doing like special ed classes and to be a teacher, since I have a music ed degree, I was eventually told I was diagnosed with ODD as a kid, oppositional defiance disorder. Yeah, I was a bad kid. I was always angry. I was always going to counseling. I had a speech problem. I still hated the way I talked. And I was always getting in fights. I was always arguing with teachers. But I was also, like, top of my class, super smart, always doing good. It's just, I had an extreme attitude problem. I always say it's pretty much like extreme reverse psychology. So yeah, was I a bad kid? I didn't want to be. I don't think anybody really made it seem like I was a bad kid. They always seemed to let me slide on a lot more stuff than I realize now, because maybe they knew. Maybe me being a kid, they were supposed to know something like this, and they understood, or they at least let it slide, or maybe it's because I was one of the smart kids. Who knows? There's other stuff I did that I'm not going to admit on here, but I'm more bad than good kid growing up. Okay. Why do you think the people in Bleak Creek support the Whitewood School even though mysterious things have happened in the past? Okay, well, one, this seems to be a very religious town. It even says that there's 2 Baptist churches in it. You get these small towns, they have this like whole hive mind idea, and as much I just want to like really dig into it, I'm not going to get into how religion is a cult anyways, because that's a whole discussion that will probably make a lot of people mad. And I'm fine with disagreement and debates, but probably save that for another time. There's also the other thing is they think the water from Bleak Creek actually kind of hypnotizes the people, kind of makes them believe in what's going on, and like that's everyone in the town. Yeah, the people who are in the cult at the school, of course, are really into it, but I think the water itself kind of messes with their minds. Maybe it doesn't affect kids as much since they seem more independent, and they also think it's the water that was giving everyone kidney stones. It's a random thing, but they eventually bring it back in the book, so it's great. As an outsider, Janine brings an interesting perspective to the events in Bleak Creek. Do you think being from somewhere else helps her see something new, or does it blind her to something important about what's happening? Why? Oh yeah, no, I don't think she's blind about anything. I think she's the only one who can actually see what's going on. Why? Because she's not from there. She's not used to it, but she did grow up there. She was able to leave, make a life, know what's going on. Like, she has a whole other perspective that these people don't have. Like, you get in this small town mind where everything is supposed to fit together. Nothing's supposed to be different. You go out, you see how different the world really is. When you come back, it's hard to understand why these people want to be like this, or if they even want to be. I don't. I don't miss small towns. I'll say that. In chapter 20, we'll learn more about Wayne Whitewood's reasons for founding the Whitewood School. Do you think his actions are justified? What would you have done in his situation? Do I think they're justified? I wouldn't say they're justified, but like I can see why he did it. His daughter Ruby was sick all his life. His wife commits suicide, and she gets sucked into the spring, and that's the whole reason he's bringing all these kids to also be sacrificed to the spring. Not kill the kids is what the one thing's out. You just, it's one of those things. It's like, how do you justify something you've never been through? Like, I imagine if there was anyone I would love the most in my life, it would be my one kid, and especially when you lose your wife. But if you have a chance to bring your only child back, maybe it would feel justified, but at the cost of 7 other kids, I don't know. I can't justify that. Donna has a mysterious presence in the novel and plays an important role at the end. Where do you think she draws her strength from? She draws her strength from her cousin Janine. When her coming back, Janine really trying to connect with her again, and then Janine just bringing more sense back to Donna. It's like, hey, another kid's disappeared. And I think this is the moment like triggers it, and it's like, you're right. And just her not wanting it to keep happening. And the more she learns about what's going on and remembers and gets over the trauma or deals more with the trauma, it's that overcoming her fears pretty much is where she gets her strength from. Okay, so now that you're in a 90s mood, okay, do you think today's kids face the same pressures as Rex, Leif, Alyssa, Donna, and Ben did in 1922? How are the pressures the same? How are they different? Okay, I was born in 94, so I was a small kid in the 90s. I remember a lot of stuff about being a small kid. Are the pressures different? Definitely. I think that kids today are exposed to a lot more. And it's not only that. It's when you feel like there's a lot more to lose. There's a lot more pressure. Me as a kid, I did not have much. I really didn't have much until I became an adult and could start getting my own stuff. I never really felt pressure. I didn't really have anything to lose because I just didn't have much to begin with. Now as an adult, I have all this stuff going on. I can see it. But they aren't an adult. They're kids. So the pressures are different. It's because there's just more exposure is really the main reason for this. Who's your favorite character in the book and why? Who is my favorite character? I like them all. They all have their great qualities. I'm trying to think if any of them actually stood out though. I like development more than I just like a character. Who do I want to pick? Okay, I'm going to be biased here. I'm going to pick Leif. Mainly because you kind of see, I feel like you see more of like what's going on in his head, and I like his development of finally realizing he can be a leader too. But it's also because I took the quiz at the end of the book and it said I was Leif, so I want to say Leif too. But no, I really do like him. I guess we are kind of more similar. The only difference is I was a big troublemaker and he is the opposite. But besides that, I feel like we're pretty similar. The novel ends with a few questions left unanswered. What do you make of Ruby's appearance? What do you think will happen next? Okay, so this is a question I was waiting for. Where do books like this go from now on? So Ruby, Wayne Whitewood's daughter, shows up at the very end and kind of freaks Alyssa out. As for a while, think about it. I don't think the spirit's gone. I think it's just resting. I think it had enough to like satisfy its cravings, its urges, what it wanted. But it could also be back. Now it probably has even more power, so maybe it could do more. Where it'll go next, who knows? They left it in a way that, yeah, that could be the end of the book. But I also feel like they could probably do like maybe a whole like it kind of deal, like Lost Causes Part 2. Just have them come back again as adults, or maybe as older teenagers, maybe later in high school, and something like this happens again. That's where I would see this logically going. I hope it wouldn't be exactly like It Part 2, how that was framed, but something along those lines would make the most sense for this. But yeah, that's it. That's it for these questions in the book. I really want to answer those because I felt like they were great questions. I could go on and on with each of the questions, but that will take forever. So, what do you think? Have you read the book? Are you fans of Rhett and Link? You should be. They make some really just enjoyable content. The book is super enjoyable to read. Check it out if you haven't. The Lost Causes of Bleak Creek. But yeah, if you like what I have to say about this book, go and like the video. And if you want to see me talk more about what I'm reading, whatever else, go and subscribe to my channel. You can see when I do all that. But until next time, I'm the AC. Thank you for watching, and bye.